My gosh.
Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Well, good morning. A pleasant, good, frigid Monday morning. We welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by our friends at United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brenneman. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning, Tom.
It's like we're hanging meat in the studio today.
Yeah, it is freezing over here.
Why is that? If you walk 10 feet out of our door, it's like 78 degrees in there.
I think
and here it's 62.
So I know the fans can't see it, but there's two windows right by us, right here. And you can feel if you step a couple steps closer, Tom, you can feel the difference just from doing that. So there's like some sort of issue there where it's not sealed very well, and it's just freezing in this corner. This side of the room is freezing.
Chilly over here. Men, Good morning.
Morning, Tom. You know,
and naturally, Reed, he's breaking out his Max Montoya, Anthony Munoz, short sleeves, freezer bowl T-shirt ride today.
You know what's funny? Two things I'll say real quickly is, one, we moved to this office because our old office did not have heat. It was in an old building. It had heat, never worked. We moved here, and we have the exact same problem. Secondly, I was watching that Dolphins Chiefs game thinking that every person in Cincinnati, because it's so cold, they kept bringing up the freezer bowl, every person in Cincinnati has a family member, has a relative that swears up and down they were at that freezer bowl. And I don't believe half of them.
I don't believe, not a one.
I've told the story. I've told the story with you guys on this show. I had a guy walk down, 3 doors down, a neighbor, who offered me tickets to the game that day. And I said, well, let me run across the street. I had not been outside yet.
Oh, no.
He wakes me up on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. I said, let me run across the street and ask my buddy if he wants to go with me. I took 5 steps out the door. I turned around. I came back in. I called him up on the phone. I said, thanks, no thanks. No chance.
Zero chance.
Nuts.
Like I said, everyone has someone in their family that, anytime it's cold, they'll just bring out, just a reminder, I was at the freezer bowl.
Yeah.
Sure
I was there. And you're like, yeah, whatever, uncle.
Tom, if Mike Brown called you up and Paul Brown Stadium, now Paycor, filled with snow, he needs some help shoveling. He pays you $20 an hour. Are you going to go down there and shovel
I actually might need the $20 an hour, so I might do it. I might think about doing it. Would you do it?
No, I don't think I'd do it.
We're going to show some video of people in Buffalo that are doing it. That's why you asked the question.
That is correct.
The pictures are they're just unbelievable. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. Well, you guys are asleep at the
I was there.
You can join us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We broadcast live on X. That's at CBox Sports. If you'd rather join us in podcast form, by all means, just search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman and you're dialed in. Today, before we go any further, it is a holiday, and we remember the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today, a man who truly laid out his life on the line every day for God and equality for all men and women in our country and all over the world, and he did it peacefully. So let us go into this day and every day with his love for one another in our hearts. All right, Super Wild Card Weekend kicked off Saturday, and for the Cleveland Browns, it was a complete nightmare. Yes, they battled through nearly the impossible this year, Casey, despite what you say about them. Unbelievable injuries along the offensive line. They used 4 different starting quarterbacks and were led by the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Oh, boy.
They were favored in that opening round matchup in Houston. Remember that? We talked about it Friday. They were favored. We couldn't believe it. Well, the injuries caught up with them. The 38-year-old quarterback threw a pair of pick sixes, and the defense didn't even bother to show. 45-14 Texans. Rookie quarterback and former Buckeye star C.J. Stroud was sensational. Throws for nearly 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Houston advances to the divisional round next weekend. Don't know who they're going to play yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Then came Saturday night. Now, look, we joked about the Dolphins showing up in cold weather in those teal and white uniforms, that the two simply don't mix. And they don't. It was embarrassing. It really was embarrassing if you truly watched the game and watched a lot of the replays. The South Floridians were just manhandled by Kansas City 26-7. Now, was it just me, or did the Dolphins, starting with their coach, just the way he was dressed compared to Andy Reid, right? Or their quarterback, or their defense, they wanted no part of this game. They had tacklers in this game. If you watch I was truly appalled by it. There were 3 or 4 times in the game where their defenders could have hit Mahomes or could have hit somebody else. I don't even know who number 45 is. Wiley, is that his last name? They should kick the guy off the team. He literally had a chance to blow up Mahomes while he was still in bounds on a run in the first half. And then later in the game, another guy comes near the sideline. He waves his hands at him. The matador. It was unbelievable. Their tacklers didn't even want to be there. Meanwhile, I tell you who didn't want to be there. He is the newest member of Nutcutter Nation, and that is rookie Rashee Rice. This guy, he was unbelievable. With all the issues they've had at wide receiver, you ain't got to worry about him. 8 catches, 130 yards. The Chiefs will hit the road more than likely next weekend. It all depends on that Steelers-Bills game. There's a chance they could be playing at Baltimore. If they are on the road, it'll be the first road playoff game ever for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so now we get to Sunday, right? This was supposed to be the year of the Cowboys. They have the highest scoring team in the league. A defense with playmakers. Remember we were talking about Dallas defense 3, 4, 7, 8 weeks in this. Oh, my God, Micah Parsons. Oh, my God. That's why you cannot buy the hype. You cannot buy it. When they prove it, you buy it. Otherwise, we waste our breath in this studio 5 days a week. They even had a home game this year. Green Bay had to win its final game just to get into the playoffs, and had a quarterback who'd never started a postseason game. From the opening kickoff, this was a first-class tail kicking supreme. The Packers take the opening kickoff. They march straight down the field, touchdown. By halftime, Dak Prescott had thrown 2 picks, 1 returned for a touchdown. It was 27-7. And Green Bay would go on and blast Dallas 48-32. Most points the Cowboys have ever allowed in a playoff game. Jordan Love throws for 3 touchdowns in his best, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers impersonation. And Aaron Jones, I don't know what it is about him against Dallas. 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's had more rushing touchdowns than any Packer in history. The Pack will take on the top seed 49ers in California next week. Meanwhile, for the Cowboys, what's next? Does Mike McCarthy stay on as head coach? He has 1 year left on his contract. Or does Jerry Jones pursue Bill Belichick? All right, so going into Sunday night, all 3 wild card games, let's be honest, total snoozers, blowouts. They put you to sleep, whatever you want to call it. But we were left with a game that did have the best storylines of the weekend. Matthew Stafford returning to Detroit to take on former Rams quarterback Jared Goff in the first postseason game in the Motor City in 30-plus years. Crowd was incredible. Game was even better. Goff came out sizzling, 14 first-quarter points. Stafford, and we said this weeks ago on the show, one of the toughest, if not the toughest dude in the NFL. He always has been since he stepped into the league. He kept getting off the deck time after time with injuries. He led the Rams right back in it, but in the end, the Lions come away with a 1-point win and will earn another home game next week. They will meet the winner of tonight's game, Philly and Tampa Bay. So, 2 games today. We start in Buffalo. Casey, you got this video. Look at this, please. Look at this. Is this morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning in Buffalo. Are you kidding me? That's this morning. Can you imagine going to that game?
Oh, I see. No, I could never. Reed would. Reed would probably wear this same outfit, short sleeve T-shirt and all
That's
that.
not true. I get cold.
I would never show up to a game like that ever. that sounds like a nightmare. But it is going to be very fun to watch it on TV.
Is there a worse investment than the state of New York putting in $1 billion for a stadium in Buffalo and not getting them a dome?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What are they doing?
Here's the other thing, too, that we're not even considering, because we're only seeing what's inside the stadium. I've been to Buffalo after a snowstorm.
Right.
They pile up the snow
Yep.
like a mountain right outside the stadium, and it gets big. And that looks like a giant, like, already there's a ton of snow that looks like it's going to be a giant mountain outside their stadium. That's crazy.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
crazy.
the roads are still closed up there in
think they are.
Buffalo.
I think that's
Probably.
right.
So all 60,000 fans that'll go to Highmark Stadium today are breaking the law.
It's
They'll
probably
be
just
sledding. They'll be getting a tractor trailer in there. Any way they can file them in.
It's probably
the
all
Buffalo
those
faithful will get in there.
community college students that are just right by the stadium. They're just going to walk from that community college right to the stadium, and that's going to be the crowd.
God bless them.
God bless them.
God bless them. I mean, they're demented, but God bless them. So you got the Steelers and the Bills. That game was moved back, of course. It was supposed to be yesterday. They've had over 24 inches of snow there. I don't know how they had that stadium ready for 4:30 today. No idea, but again, God bless them all. And then tonight on ESPN, the game today, by the way, is on CBS. The game tonight between Philadelphia and Tampa Bay, both starting quarterbacks beat up, but they're both going to start. So that is an 8 o'clock tip-off or face-off or kickoff or whatever you want to call it, all the above. I'm so damn cold, I don't know what sport we're talking about. Off the field, Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. Now, here's a smart man. I mean, get the hell out of Ann Arbor and go to L.A. He'll meet with the Chargers officially today about their head coaching vacancy. No decision, we understand, is expected right away. And for Harbaugh, let's be honest, it's probably a good time to get out. You got the investigation going on, and then over the weekend we learned that two of their biggest stars, quarterback J.J. McCarthy and running back Blake Corum, have both declared for the NFL draft, while he looks down the road in Columbus, and they're bringing everybody back and signing everybody and his brother. So good time to get out if you're Harbaugh. Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan continues to make the rounds in pursuit of a head coaching job. He met with the Falcons over the weekend. He's got 4 total interviews lined up. College football, Jed Fish is a new head coach in Washington. That was after the departure of Kalen DeBoer, who replaces Nick Saban in Alabama. College basketball, UC. I watched you, Elliot. I watched you. They were right there.
Yeah.
For a second straight. I mean, right there with a chance to beat a ranked opponent in the final minute. But very much like the Texas game, they couldn't close a deal against number 14 Baylor and lose 62-59. Wes Miller said it in the Big 12, no time to hang your head, because one of the top teams in the league comes a calling at Fifth Third tomorrow night, TCU. How about their last 3 games? They lose at Kansas by 1. They hammer number 9 Oklahoma, and then over the weekend beat number 2 Houston. Tip-off tomorrow night set for 7 o'clock. Xavier played its best half of this season on Saturday. The Muskies outscored Providence 44-25 in a 20-point win. Trey Green led the way with 23. X plays a pair of home games this week. That starts tomorrow night against their former head coach, Thad Matta. Chad Matta, as some would say him. Chad Matta.
What's the joke behind that?
My dad gave him the nickname Chad Matta when he had come to town many, many years ago. And he had said, boy, it's great to be in Cincinnati and their great mayor, Charlie Lunkin. That's Charlie Lukin, for those that don't know. So my dad immediately hung Thad Matta with the name Chad Matta.
I like that.
And it's stuck.
Big league nickname.
It's
That's
stuck.
a big league nickname.
Big league nickname. Although I tell you, he's got Butler playing really well.
Yes, they are.
He's an outstanding coach. All right. Well, first of all, boys, it was sort of different with the Bengalis not in the playoffs this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, really different.
Yeah. It was.
Don't get melancholy.
Well,
You have that look about you right now, Case. Deep breath. You got through it.
Well, let me tell you. I did something that I would do for the Bengals playoffs, and that was to just keep growing out the beard because inevitably you're going to be playing out in the cold cities of either Buffalo, Kansas, Cincinnati. I still did that and didn't go outside at all for the playoffs. It was weird. Not that I'm going to get all super melodramatic about it, but it didn't like the TV didn't stick. Like I wasn't sticking my eyes glued onto the TV all weekend. As soon as the Texans started getting a lead or I felt like they were just blowing out the Browns, I just switched it off and waited for the next game. I didn't even bother. Browns stunk anyways.
They did.
And then the next game, it was like Chiefs and the Dolphins. I mean, Chiefs just completely controlled that game for the entire time. Dolphins couldn't do anything. I just turned it off after like the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just over by then. And I started watching the UC Bearcats game. That's how bored I was with the games this weekend. And then
You didn't even watch the biggest game. You didn't even watch the best game. You said
the best game was the Rams and Lions. I didn't even get to watch it really.
What?
Yeah, just
Why not?
I was out, Tom. I was out just enjoying my night. All the games up to that point had stunk, and I don't know. I should have watched it. I should have found a way to watch it, but I was doing the ESPN box score watching, so I didn't see the plays, but I was watching it.
You might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I mean it. I'd rather not be playing this week than have what happened to the Browns.
True.
I fully mean that. Because that
So you would rather not make – this is like the old line about to have loved and lost.
Correct.
Right? You're telling me you
I
would
would have
rather have
rather
been
not
sitting
loved at all.
home, your team,
Yeah.
this weekend,
Yeah.
rather than lose the way the Browns did.
Correct. Absolute Tom. Not only did the Cleveland Browns lose by 30 points. Let me round up what happened to the Cleveland Browns this year. This is the best season that Browns fans have had in their lifetime. For most Browns fans. In their lifetime, last 30 years. This is the best season that they've had. They didn't win the division. They didn't have a home playoff game. They go on the road and lose to a rookie quarterback by 30 points. And, oh, yeah, the team you lost to has all your draft picks going forward. That is the most embarrassing way to lose. In a league that has so much parity like the NFL does. In all seriousness, a monkey could run an organization and probably get in the postseason every 5 years just because of how much parity there is in that league. And somehow the Cleveland Browns continue to do the impossible. There's a little bit of pity. I feel bad for him. It's so funny, but I do feel a little bad for him.
I feel nothing for him, and this is the thing: when you have your hard-earned paycheck on the Cleveland Browns to cover the spread,
Oh, my God.
you start.
Here we go. It always comes back to this.
You start losing respect for people. I lost respect for Joe Flacco. I lost
respect did you
respect for
ever
the
have
coach,
for him?
the quote-unquote coach of the year, and Kevin Stefanski. Get out of here. That team is filled with bums. Cleveland will never be good again. Casey made that joke on his stink list all year long that they sucked, and by God, they do suck. That team didn't deserve anything. They shouldn't have been in the postseason. Wasted all of our times. I watched every single snap of that game, and they were out of it from the second quarter.
Listen,
completely out of it.
That Browns team, they pride themselves on having this number one defense in the league, being just this great team that could get to the quarterback and sack the quarterback, stop the run. They did none of those things.
Nope.
Absolutely zero of those things. They didn't sack them. They weren't able to stop the run. They let big play after big play get behind them. I mean, it was just an embarrassment, like Reed said.
I have to tell you, that Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, 38 years old for Houston.
I agree.
I mean, I got to tell you,
big.
man.
Yep. He's gonna be a big
I haven't
name.
watched a ton of them this year. We saw them here when they put up whatever it was they put up. They ran for 150, Stroud threw for 350, whatever it was. But, man, I mean, you talk about some play designs now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I would want to see with the Bengals. I don't see it.
They should.
I mean, I really don't see it. Mm-hmm. How does a 38-year-old dude, and Taylor's not a hell of a lot older than he is, maybe he's younger than he is. How old is Taylor?
Taylor's older, I think.
I don't know if he is or
He's
not.
right
He's
there.
right there, though.
Roughly the same. But, I mean, when you look, the Texans have some weapons. They have an outstanding quarterback. They've got a good, solid running back. They've got good, solid wide receivers. I wouldn't say any. I know Hill had a big, but I wouldn't say any of their wide receivers certainly are not better than Chase and not better than Higgins.
I don't know. It's arguable. I mean,
Okay, arguable for this year.
yeah.
Chase,
But I'm
they're
saying
good players.
is that I don't see any of the play design to keep that Cleveland. Now, I still think Myles Garrett is seriously hurt. I think we're going to find out about that.
I agree.
He injured his shoulder. He only had one sack after the rest of the year. After he initially hurt his shoulder, he's in a sling there for a while. He wasn't the same guy. But that's not an excuse for why they got beat. But, I mean, my God, where is that creativity on offense around here?
Well, that scheme works so well because they're able to at least establish a little bit of a run game. And when C.J. Stroud, I want you guys to kind of picture this because Joe Burrow has stated that he cannot turn his back to the defense. He doesn't like to do it. It makes him uncomfortable because he likes to read the field.
Right.
C.J. Stroud is turning his back for more than like 2 seconds in the play off those play-action rollouts. He hikes the ball, fakes the run, and he rolls out deeper than any quarterback in the NFL right now, sees the open guy downfield, chucks it, pinpoint accuracy just about every time. It's phenomenal. And it's not just that. There's other things like the screen game that they're able to do. Some of the run design is really well thought out, but they need to do more of that in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow has to be able to do that.
You're right. At some point, we're going to have to make Joe Burrow feel a little bit uncomfortable. We're going to have to make him do some things that he's not comfortable with. The offense, as it does revolve around Joe, we shouldn't be doing everything to make Joe feel as comfortable as possible. I'll say this really quickly about the Texans' play design as opposed to the Bengals. Brian Callahan, I know he doesn't call the plays, but he is our offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Him getting head coaching jobs, this is going to sound incredibly disrespectful. I say this with all love and respect. Brian Callahan going to another team and be their head coach feels like we're selling a lemon. Feels like we're selling somebody a bad car a little bit in good
Fine
faith.
by me, yeah.
But
Take him.
It is what it is. Maybe he'll be a
Take him.
fantastic head coach. I haven't seen it as an offensive coordinator. The craziest stat in the NFL this year, and they brought it up a lot over that broadcast between the Texans and the Browns. The Browns have the number one the number one defense, right?
Yep.
They have by far the best scoring defense at home. They have the worst scoring defense on the road.
Yeah, that was strange.
Out of all 32 teams, no one has given up more points on the road than the Cleveland Browns. How does that equate?
Yeah,
Because they
that's
always
hard to
say
figure.
defense travels, right?
Yep,
That's been the old
That's
adage.
right.
Like, defense never goes in the slumps. Defense travels. You can take it on the road. All those things. Offense is supposed to struggle on the road. How does defense struggle on the road? And they gave up over 30 points a game on the road. I don't understand how that makes sense.
Doesn't make any sense. The Callahan comment, I say to myself, I don't think you can make an honest assessment one way or the other, good, bad, or indifferent.
That's fair.
On Callahan. And here's the thing ultimately. If Callahan gets a job, and the one thing that is one of the primary reasons I think Callahan is getting so much run right now is because of what he had to do with this offense making the change from Burrow to Browning and the style of play, getting back up under center, where this team played very, very well on offense with Browning there.
Yep.
Arguably better than they did with Burrow there outside of the 49er and the Buffalo game. And I'm not saying that Browning's better than Burrow. Don't take that. It's not what I'm saying. The offense as a whole, the run game, they were much better, much more consistent, even with a guy who'd never played before. So here's the thing, though, about Callahan. He's getting all this run right now, and I think he's earned it. I really do. He comes from incredible pedigree. I've had as much respect for his dad as anybody that I've ever met in the sport of football. He should have never gotten fired as a head coach at Nebraska. He should have never been fired as a head coach in the NFL. And he just keeps on going. And everywhere he does, their guys show up. He was the offensive line coach this year for the Browns. Bill Callahan, phenomenal football coach.
Yeah.
One of the greats of all time. So Brian comes from good stock here. But I just wonder moving forward, okay, for people who don't like Zach Taylor being the play caller, and I am right at the very top of that list, okay, because I think there has been serious underachievement with the weapons on this team. And now you're going to move forward with a number of those weapons no longer on the team. So your scheme and your play design and your play calling is going to become far more important than it has the last 3 years. Yep. When you had Chase and you had Higgins and you had Boyd and you had, Burrow in there. You had Joe Mixon in there, and who knows what Jonah Williams, like him or not. So now all of a sudden, what kind of guy are you going to get in there? Maybe you'll get another Bobby Slowick. I don't know. But how appealing is an offensive coordinator job when you don't even call the plays?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Who want that's a stupid question. There are a lot of guys that want it because you're well paid as a coordinator, offense or defense, in the NFL.
And Joe Burrow can make your career.
Well, he can, but, I think it took this year Burrow getting hurt and what Callahan did with Browning to earn him more respect and points around the league than he has the last 2 years with Burrow in there completely healthy. And, yeah, he got a token interview here or there, but nothing like he's getting so far this year. I mean, pitcher comes in there. Maybe he's a guy who just takes over, moves right up. You get somebody else in as quarterback's coach. But as long as Taylor's calling the plays, I think you're going to have a hard time finding somebody who's just elite. Or you might get somebody who's elite, but he doesn't have enough power because he's not calling the plays. That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair. I forgot that Brian Callahan was Bill Callahan's son momentarily. I forgot that. But so, and I looked up Brian Callahan's resume. He's more than deserving to get head coaching looks. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be hard to get some wonderkind of an offensive coordinator when you won't even let him call his own plays.
Well, but again, I think you would get somebody like a Slowick, 38 years old,
Young
whatever
guy.
he is, right? Young guy. Okay, you're a coordinator. All of a sudden you're making $500,000, $750,000, $1 million a year, whatever it is you're making. So somebody's going to take the gig, and you'll find somebody good. It's just that, I don't know. It's like Bieniemy was so overshadowed all those years in Kansas City, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. Although I think he was calling more of the plays than Callahan was calling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
All right, so you got the Brownies. Casey, you want any parting words for the Brownies? You want to beat them down? You're not going to give them any credit at all. Reed said he'd rather be sitting on the sidelines this past weekend
100%.
than have that done to your
100%.
team. Are you kidding?
Well, Tom, this is what I'll say about the Browns.
You guys cheered the Andy Dalton years. You guys are right there with your bells on
But
and your
it's
pom-poms
different.
in your
See,
hand
it's
when Andy Dalton was getting his butt kicked every single year they were in the playoffs.
It's different now.
C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love have more wins than they had under the Marvin Lewis regime in the postseason.
See, it's different now.
And they've both played in one game.
We've won 5 playoff games.
Yeah, let me say what I want to say about the Browns real quick. They fought hard. They went through adversity. Lots of adversity all season
You're being
long.
tongue-in-cheek, Casey.
And
it's
they
not
tired.
quarterback
It is.
after
It's tired.
quarterback. Man, and all I heard was, man, they're going to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's undefeated in the wild card round. Number 1 defense. Myles Garrett is the best graded PFF player in all of history. All these things amounted out to 0 sitting on the couch next weekend. So, congrats, Browns. You made it to the playoffs. You didn't even win the AFC North. Maybe next year you'll be able to figure it out, but I kind of doubt it because you're going to have to pay Deshaun Watson $100 million.
Or Flacco.
Or Flacco, I don't know.
have to do
You,
both.
Well, you have to
guys
pay
decide what
Deshaun
you wanna
Watson
do.
$100 million regardless.
The story of the game is not the Browns; it is the Texans. I didn't believe in the Texans.
That's right.
That is-
That's right.
I kind of
Zebra.
thought it was they were a little bit fraudulent. I sniffed out that. We'll talk about the Dolphins game here in a second, but I sniffed out those rats in Miami a long time ago.
I think we all did.
Same thing with Dallas. Those rats.
Right here.
They get
It's
into the
cool
all did.
postseason. They get They get 2 losses all year. You proclaim them the best team. Well, then Reed spews the stats. Oh, they haven't played literally anybody all season long. They get to the playoffs. They get their ass kicked. Anyway, the Texans. I didn't believe in the Texans. I now believe in the Texans. C.J. Stroud is a legitimately good quarterback.
Yes.
A legitimately good quarterback.
He's been really
I-
good.
What was that?
He's been very, very good.
He's been very good. And this is where Casey's actually right, because Casey was high on this team before we played the Texans.
I even said they were going to win their division. They did.
I think they're legitimately good. And here's the best part. No, their receiving core is nowhere close to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Nowhere close. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, not even close. But he makes them. He elevates those receivers to being superstars. Robert Woods, that guy's 52 years old.
Yep.
He's still making plays. Dalton Schultz is dropping passes on the sidelines.
Yep.
Still making plays.
That's
Devin
fair.
Singletary's a beast. I think the Texans, and again, Sir Boy was pumping this on Twitter, x.com, so maybe I should be a little hesitant towards it. But Sir Boy did say it, and I kind of agree with it. I think the Texans can maybe get to an AFC Championship game. That's how explosive their offense looks. That's how good their defense looked in that game.
And that was my take, as whoever the winner of this game was going to prove, do the Browns really have a top-tier defense, or are the Texans that good on offense, right? That's what it was going to prove. And by far, Houston's offense is explosive, phenomenal. I don't know if there's a team that can really slow it down.
Well, the
They're going to
Baltimore
have to
Ravens
keep up
probably
with them.
can.
They're going to have to keep up with the Houston Texans, though, is what I'm getting at.
I'll be honest. This validated a lot of things about the Houston Texans for me. I was tired of it, right? Everyone after they beat the Bengals, this team's for real. This team's really good. And I was like, no. And everyone's hyping up C.J. Stroud. He deserved all the hype that he got. He is outstanding. He's going to win a lot of games down there in Houston. All that being said, I don't think they got a shot against presumably the Baltimore Ravens next week. But that's we'll talk about that later in the week. This was, like I said, validating for me watching C.J. Stroud. He throws a good ball. They have a really good offense. Like he does things that are indicative of not only a franchise quarterback, but a guy that can take you to the promised land. He does all those things well, and I think there was a coming out party for a couple of quarterbacks this week, and not just C.J. Stroud. I think Jordan Love equally deserves praise for what he did to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, we will get into that in a second. It should be noted, just in case you're curious. Okay, you talk about Love, 3 touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Talk about C.J. Stroud, 3 touchdowns, right?
Right.
First playoff game for both. Lamar Jackson has thrown 3 career playoff touchdown passes. Joe Burrow has played in 7 playoff games. He's thrown 9. So here you have Stroud. Now, he's only a rookie. It's only 1 game. But it was against the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Yep.
Also
Listen,
the worst
I'm not saying for a second that I think Houston is going to do it, but I would not be shocked at all if Houston beat anybody in the AFC. I think they're that good.
I agree.
Because the only games where they really stunk the place up this year, the Jets game is when Stroud got the concussion.
Yep.
Okay, they stunk it up, and then they stunk it up the next week when he didn't play against the Browns.
Yep.
So, they go 10-7 on the year. They could easily have been 11-6. Hell, who knows? They could have been 12-5.
Yeah.
They certainly would have beaten the Jets with Stroud healthy. All right? And then he comes back and they avenge the loss that they have early in the year when he's there, even though he didn't play against Cleveland. So, you look at these teams left in the AFC. All right, which brings us now to the second game on Saturday. And I said it in the monologue. There is so much to be said, in my opinion, and some might say, that's baloney. And you know what? You might be right. You might be right. But when I'm sitting there and I'm at a buddy of mine's house, and just when the teams come on the field, and you see Mike McDaniels, who literally looks like he's going to climb Mount Everest, He's got stuff over his face. He's got his glasses on. He's got the thing over his head. He's got this parka. He's got this snowsuit on. And then you look at Andy Reid. He looked like Santa Claus over there. Nothing on his face. He's got snot that's frozen to his mustache. He's not even wearing gloves. And you just look at him and you say, okay, all right. If I'm a player and I'm looking at my coach, who's a nut cutter in this operation, all right? And then every time you get a shot of Mahomes, he's standing there with his headband on, nothing over his ears, helmet off, sitting on the sideline. He'd throw on a jacket every now and again. Then they take the shot at Tua, the Hawaii guy. And I mean, look at this shot of Andy Reid. Look at that. Now, you tell me you don't want to play for that guy? Look at that guy.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It looks like Old Man Winter. Right?
Right?
I mean, and then every time they took a shot at Tua, he's sitting over there. And look, I'm not beating the guy down for growing up in Hawaii and for getting, going to Alabama where it's warm all the time and then going to Miami where it's warm all the time. But my goodness, look at that. Yeah, that's a man's man.
Look at the video.
Look at him.
I mean, there's icicles.
Andy Reid. And I repeat again, he was not even wearing gloves. Every time they showed Tua, he's sitting over there on the sideline. I mean, head down. And then they're tacklers. I wanted to get sick to my stomach. I can only imagine being around my buddy Chris Spielman. We'll get to him here in a minute. I can only imagine being around him and sitting next to him and watching that game. With that number 45, I think his number is. And I think his last name's Wiley. I don't know. I don't care. But all I know is I would care if I was the general manager or the head coach of the Dolphins. Because early in the game, he had a chance. He wouldn't have been penalized. He had a chance to blow Mahomes up. I mean, light him up in those kind of conditions. And I'm not suggesting hurting somebody. That's not what I'm saying. It's cold. You make them pay for running. Hit the guy.
That's right.
And as Spielman used to say to me, you know what? Sometimes you get a penalty. Who cares? But then later in the game, I don't know if it was Pacheco or somebody, and they come over near the side, and he basically just like it was touch football. And I thought to myself, this is going to be one of the all-time blowouts in playoff history. That game was a joke.
It was a joke.
And the Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. People
Correct.
around here can hate them.
Correct.
I mean,
Thank
they
you, Tom.
are the Chiefs. When it gets down to nut-cutting time, when the playoffs begin, they are the Kansas City Chiefs.
Everyone in the chat hates me for saying this, and I've said it all year long, is that, yes, you watch the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's not the same team that's putting up 45 points a playoff game. It's not that team anymore. But at the end of the day, are you still going to bet against Patrick Mahomes, the perceived best quarterback in the league, and Andy Reid, the perceived best coach in the league? Not a chance. And I never will. And I never, especially against the Miami Dolphins. Like, this is a team that, once again, Elliot already brought it up. Over here on this side of the room, there was never an ounce of respect for the Miami Dolphins all year long because we knew what they were. We knew what Tua was. Like, we've seen this team underperform in big games every time they've done so. Tua especially. And we're going to do buy or sell later, and one of the questions revolves around Tua, but the Miami Dolphins need to start thinking about their quarterback situation in a hurry because Tua can't throw a ball 20 miles an hour. It was just floating.
No.
You know how I knew Tua's not the guy? Casey's got the clip right here. Tom, after a 26-7 loss in the postseason, one of Miami's best seasons, and that's even with the tank job at the end of the season, choking away the division. This is what Tua had to say to Patrick Mahomes. So, if you couldn't hear it, that was Tua, the losing quarterback of that game, asking Patrick Mahomes to mail him a jersey of Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
After getting humiliated 26-7 in the postseason, Tom. That's your franchise quarterback? He's going to ask the opposing quarterback who just slapped you around all day for his jersey? Is he going to sign it? What, do you want a picture? That's preposterous. Tua completed almost, 50% of passes?
Correct.
He had a 50% passer rating. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. If you take Tyreek Hill away from the Miami Dolphins, legitimately, you can say, and we have this argument with Justin Herbert all the time. If you give Justin Herbert Justin Jefferson, if you give Justin Herbert Jamar Chase, yada, yada, yada. This is actually true. If you take away Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins, if you take him away, he doesn't complete 30% of passes. He doesn't throw for more than 150 yards in games. He is a bum, a certifiable Alabama quarterback bum. These guys don't equate in the NFL. I'm very sorry to say, but it's very true. Alabama quarterbacks don't work in the NFL. They haven't for a long time. And Tua is just another name on the list. Tyreek is going to be gone soon, and when that happens, you have to get rid of Tua. You have to.
Well, that's a dilemma they're facing right now. This is where you get into this sort of, fine line thing here about, are you going to pay Tua? I mean, it's the old adage.
Right.
You got to replace. We talk about this on the program all the time. If you're going to replace somebody, that's fine. Make your decision, whatever it is, whoever it is. But, man, you better have plan B and plan C and plan D on who's going to take his place. Because during the regular season, the guy's pretty damn good. But in December and now January, that whole franchise just melts before your very eyes, and that's ironic, melting in the snow. But that's what they do. They melt in the snow.
For the record, as opposed to Tua, if you look at what Mike McDaniel is considered to be an offensive savant, right? He's considered to be one of the best.
And he is.
He's very good. I think he's a very good coach. And you're talking about replacing him. Look at all the other offensive savants in the league and what they've done with their questionable quarterback play. We'll start 7 years ago in Kansas City. Andy Reid was winning a lot of games with Alex Smith. Winning the division. And they draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round and make the move immediately. Sean McVay went to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Winning a lot of games with Jared Goff.
Yep.
Wasn't the guy. They moved off him, and they get Matt Stafford. It's worked out. Kyle Shanahan. He winning a lot of games with Jimmy G, right? Winning a lot of games up there with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they keep moving the door. So I think that it's inevitable that the Dolphins move off of Tua just because I think they've reached their ceiling with him. Quarterbacks raise the ceiling. And the final thing I'll say about the Dolphins was 3 weeks ago, they beat the Dallas Cowboys at home, 22-20. And they demanded respect. You go back and look at those post-game conferences. You go back and look at some of the videos posted on social media from the Miami Dolphins. They demanded respect from the national media after beating the Dallas Cowboys. What have they done since? They lost to the Ravens by 40 points. They lost to the Bills at home with a chance to win the division. Then they go on the road and lose by 20 in Arrowhead and get absolutely demolished. So congratulations on demanding your respect. You earned it, Miami Dolphins.
Here's the craziest part, Tom. You said he's good in the regular season, and I can't say you're wrong because he, in fact, was very good during the regular season, Tua. They played 6 games this season, this entire season. That includes the Chiefs game. 6 games this season where they faced an opponent with a winning record. They won one of those games. Yep. And that was against, I'd argue, the second biggest fraud in the NFL.
Dallas Cowboys.
In the Dallas Cowboys, at home. So this is not a Miami Dolphin team that has handled adversity well at all. Not that they've given really the chance to face it. They were blown out they lost by 30 to the Bills earlier on in the season. They lost by 40 to the Ravens. They lose to the Bills again in a must-win game. Well, really, the Bills' offense was terrible. They had 3 turnovers.
To give the game away.
Josh Allen threw 3 red zone turnovers.
3 red zone turnovers. So, no, I listen, it's time to move on from Tua, respectfully. I say that with love, and I say that with respect.
I don't even think it's just a Tua thing either, though. I mean, their offense was phenomenal the first, 8 weeks of the season, and it was kind of fluffed up from that Denver game where they had 300, 400 yards rushing the ball, and they're like this top-tier rushing team. People look at the stats and go, well, they're like a top 10 rushing attack. And, yeah, because they had 2 or 3 games where they just absolutely demolished teams in the beginning of the year. they are one of the worst teams just because of where they're located. And I don't know if that can change, if it's going to take someone else to get them in gear. But beginning of the year, the Dolphins are always fantastic. Yeah. They've always been really good in the beginning of the year, because when they go play in Miami in the middle of August and September heat, it's brutal. And they just can't compete during the wintertime. They cannot compete in cold weather games. I don't know what it's going to take for them to be able to get a guy that can do that, but it's definitely not Tua.
They're going to have to win games so that they play at home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if they get the 1 seed, then they won't have to worry about playing cold weather.
Which they're close to getting that. They're close.
Right. They beat the Cowboys and had a chance to do it, and they demanded respect, and they got it. They got the respect from the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Tom, I've never seen a quarterback, and it was cold. It was very, very cold, so that's going to affect him so much. I've never seen a quarterback in the NFL have as little of arm strength as Tua. The ball just floats everywhere. And it's not just the cold weather. He does it in the warm weather too, but he's got no zip behind that at all. Meanwhile, Matt Stafford is 40 years old, throwing it backwards between his legs 45 yards downfield.
Some guys just have cannons. I mean,
right.
Flacco's one of those guys, and he had a terrible game.
Correct.
But he's one of those guys who could throw it through that wall over there. But it's just I don't know what you do when you're in that position with Miami. I really don't, because it's easy to sit here and pick apart Tua. But you've gotten the playoffs the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. You bring in the fact that he had the concussions last year. He's only, 24, 25 years old. But you got to replace him. I don't know who's out there.
Kirk Cousins.
What's that?
Kirk Cousins. I mean, that.
Oh, God. No way. No way. Good Lord.
At least he could probably win you a playoff game.
What's that?
At least he could win you a playoff game.
Maybe. I mean, when did he most recently do that?
I think
2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Okay.
The story is, though, in the NFL, over the last 5 years, that if you felt like you've met your ceiling with your quarterback and you've got an offensive-minded coach, it's probably time to move on. Sean McVay, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, they all have shown that.
Yep. That's for sure. So, okay. So that brings us to Sunday, where we had the game in Buffalo canceled, and everybody can certainly understand that because of the weather situation. A lot of people were wondering, would they even get the Steelers team playing in there? They had to fly out 2 days ago, and they were shutting down the airport, all travel, the roads, et cetera, et cetera. They got in there, thank God, safely. And so that game is today at 4:30 p. in snowy, balmy Buffalo, New York. Governor came out and said, we're not moving it again today. Kathy Hochul. Whoa, big leaguer. All right. One last thing, though, on the chat here. Everett, I'm not taking the bait.
Oh, no.
I'm not taking it. I'm not.
What did he say? Which one was it?
Everett wants to get back to the whole thing about the comment I made about all the points that McPherson has scored that the Bengals offense did not.
He's saying that
and
towards
so he's
Fox.
trying to get he's doing this. He's throwing the line in the water, right? The old fly fishing thing, right? Here we go. We're throwing it out there and trying to get it right over there. Where that trout sitting right over there. I'm not that trout today.
He's not that trout
today. I'm
not that trout.
Harrison Butker, all the points. Everett, I'm not. I was born at night, not last night. Okay, easily triggered. Granted. All right, so now we get to the
Dallas Packers.
Yeah, you know what? Before we get into that, let's get our ad reads. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the 2 games yesterday, the 2 games today and tonight. And then we'll get into a little bit of college basketball and a little bit of college football. The whole Harbaugh thing. I mean, how many teams he's going to interview with, we don't know. We know that today he has an interview with the LA Chargers, and he does have a relationship with the Chargers. He played out there his last 2 years in the league before retiring. So there's that to talk about. One thing I wanted to get into at the end of last week, and we'll wait for the very end today, is the future of Alabama football. Because I recall numerous conversations I've had with numerous former head coaches in college football in talking about Alabama and how great of a job that really is unless you're Nick Saban. Because go back and look what happened between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. Not a single national championship at Alabama. Not one. Through a laundry list of coaches. So, is this job all it's cracked up to be? Forget what they did under Saban. What about moving forward? Casey, take it away.
All right, Tom. The Bengals Bearcats report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and...
The Miami Dolphins are frauds. Productivity.
The Dallas Cowboys are frauds. Productivity.
I really wanted the Lions to lose so we could just hammer home all the frauds.
And I've got...
If those three, by the way, sorry to interrupt, Casey. If those three would have, if the Rams would have finished off the fraud sweep last night,
Yes.
I would have put my life on the Tampa Bay Bucks tonight.
Oh my God, so much money.
And I'm still debating doing it. I'm very close. I haven't made up my mind yet. I guess we'll talk about that on Box Lunch today. But
right. Yeah,
which is free. By the way, Box Lunch free today if you want to stay after the show.
Correct. I'm so thirsty. Anyone know any good water?
I do.
Ooh.
Pahhni water.
I was just trying to think
here
of one.
in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use.
Where is it from?
Hamilton, Ohio.
Oh my
City
God.
of Sculpture.
Yeah, City of Sculpture. And the result is a healthy alkaline water. And some say the best tasting water
City of
in the
Great
world.
Internet.
Visit Pahhni Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. Get your coffee from UDF. Drink lots of Pahhni water and get your technology solutions from Encore. I would also encourage you all. I know that Box Lunch is free today, but if you want to, become
Continue
a member,
to watch. If you want to continue
to watch us on Box Lunch, become a member today. I'll put the link in the description. And if you're enjoying the show, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. We really appreciate it. It helps us grow. And on top of that, I would also like to promote when we post videos, if you could just leave a little like and a comment, that would do us a lot of good for growth on the show.
So let's do a thing. Let's do a little thing here. So Box Lunch today is going to be free. As you mentioned, that's for members. On Fridays, we play a game called Quiplash, which is the most fun part of all the content we do of the week. Quiplash is by far the most fun thing we do. We do that Friday. But I'll make you guys a promise. We're already doing Box Lunch for free today. If when this stream goes off, you can comment on it, right? You do the live chat right now, but when this stream goes off, you can comment on the stream. If this stream gets, 50? 50 comments?
Yes.
If this stream gets 50 comments, 50 individual comments, it just can't be mouse cop in there going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If this stream gets 50 comments after we go off air, we'll do Box Lunch for free on Wednesday as well.
Ooh.
Yep.
A twofer.
So,
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a good goal. 50 comments for the end of this show. I'm pretty sure you can even comment live on this show too. If you just if you're on your mobile device, if you click out of the live chat, and then maybe not.
yes.
Maybe not. It has to be after. But after the show, we also have Box Lunch, so
Comment
comment after the show.
Comment who you think is a bigger fraud, the Packers or the Dolphins.
Packers?
Or not bad, not the Packers, the Dolphins or the Cowboys.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So you comment on that. We get 50 of those. We'll do Box Lunch for free on Wednesday.
In all seriousness, the answer is the Cowboys, right? It's the Cowboys.
I think it's a tie.
I think I asked Tom on Friday, would he go on a rant about the Dallas Cowboys if they were to lose in embarrassing fashion? And by God, if there was ever a way, and we were talking about on Friday how owner of the Cowboys, Jerry Jones was, a little iffy with the media on if he was going to bring back Mike McCarthy. He's like, I don't know. We'll see how this weekend goes. If there was ever a we'll see how this weekend goes and then have it go the absolute worst way possible for Mike McCarthy, it was on Sunday. It was yesterday. It could not have gone worse by any stretch of the word. It was did they punt? Did they punt in that game? Did the Packers
I think
punt?
in the fourth quarter they did when they took
in the fourth quarter they punted. Yeah, when they were up 48-10. And by the way, they scored, what did they score? 30-something points at the 32 points? Those points don't count.
Right.
It was after 5 minutes when Dak decided to stat boost and he ended up throwing for 400 yards because the Packers packed it in. They didn't care anymore. What a joke the Cowboys are.
You know, there are times when analysts, and play-by-play guys too, but there are times when analysts just talk just to talk and they don't add anything whatsoever.
Yep.
Okay, whether it's the guys in the studio or guys doing the game. One of the best moments I've heard from an analyst in I don't know how long, you guys probably saw it last night, was Jason Garrett when he was asked about Jerry Jones, who, of course, Jason Garrett was the head coach of the Cowboys for a long time, and they asked him right at the conclusion of the game, you know, where do you think Jerry Jones is on all this? He says, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen here. Jerry Jones is going to be very cordial at the end of the game with the media. He's going to say all the right things about the coaches and the players, and he's not going to come out and say anything irrational or controversial. He said that'll be after the game today, last night, and then again today. He said, but by the time you hit Tuesday and then Wednesday, when they start huddling up, as every team does, and having your postseason meetings, exit interviews with players, sit down with the people around you, your football people, your coaching staff, he said you can take it to the bank that heads are going to roll. And that's exactly what Jones did yesterday. He was asked and asked and asked, and he says, I am not going to get into this thing. This is devastating for me. I thought we had the team this year to finally get to a Super Bowl, and it was ugly right from the get-go. Opening kickoff, here they come, the Pack. I think it was a 12, 14 play drive. They run it 8 or 9 times. Aaron Jones, here we go. Right? Mm-hmm. Big one down the middle of the field. Love hits early on. Big completion. They go in for the touchdown. And then right from the get-go, you know, Cowboys, they got to kick a field goal. They get a red zone. Then all of a sudden, bang. Here comes Green Bay. Bang. Pick 6. It's 27-7 at halftime. Did you see Jimmy Johnson yesterday?
Oh, yeah, we did.
At halftime.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine? I mean, he had to watch what he was saying, how he was saying it. Could you imagine being in a locker room with that guy? If he'd have been able to say what he wanted to say?
No.
Did you see that?
Oh, I did.
Huh! Did you see it, Case?
I did see it. I mean,
he was fired up now.
I did not. I was at my
I mean, you know, Strahan had to calm him down a little bit. Jimmy was hot.
I have the clip. I don't know if we're allowed to play the clip, but I have it.
We'll just make it not.
He was hot.
Yeah.
He
We'll
was really hot. And he was, I mean, like you said, he had to watch his language. It wouldn't have been the same in the locker room as it was on television, clearly. But, man, he was hot. He clearly still has a fondness, and understandably so, for the Cowboys. Won 2 Super Bowls here. But this was just a disaster. Total. You have it here? You want to put it on or no?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Now, just look at his face, though, is what I want you to look at. Because he is really angry. Go ahead, check this out.
Well, first of all, I can't say what I would say now on television. But I'll just say this. Every single one of you, you know how hard we've worked. I don't need to have people pointing the fingers one thing or another. You get your rear end in there and you play the way you know how to play. We can win the game. We're going to open it up. We're going to go fast tempo. Defense, get after Jordan Love. You can't give him that much time. You do what you're supposed to do, we'll win this game.
All right. That Michael fired. He's got everybody fired up.
No, Mike, no.
Let me get in front of you. Me first, you, Ryan.
I could not agree.
See, if you notice here, there's little things right there in body language. If you really pay attention. Jimmy didn't think any of that stuff with Strahan was funny. Mm-hmm. He found nothing funny about any of it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He was genuinely hot. Now, I will give Dak Prescott all the credit in the world. He came out afterwards, and they say in the city of Dallas, that he is the most media-savvy, media-friendly quarterback there is in the league.
Yeah.
Stand-up guy.
Right.
It's hard not
Everyone
to
loves
like the human being, Dak Prescott.
Correct.
You can get upset with his interceptions, and he cut way down on those this year than he did last year. Unfortunately, it reared its ugly head again in the playoffs yesterday. He throws 2 of them. He has a fumble, throws a pick 6. But after the game, he said, I'm the one that stunk. And if anybody's calling for Mike McCarthy to be run, they ought to be calling for me to get run. I have a lot of respect for a guy who does that.
That's the thing about Dak, and that's why that they've held on to him. Like when before he got paid the big contract, everyone was like, man, I mean, it's the same thing we're doing with Tua. The difference is that everyone loved Dak. Everyone in the clubhouse loved Dak. Everyone in the media loved Dak. Despite the clear limitations that he's presented in the postseason, despite the clear limitations that he's presented in big-time games, everyone loves Dak. And it's hard not to. He says the right things all the time. But here's the thing is that can only get you so far.
Yep.
Right? Saying the right guy. I mean, you can love the guy in the clubhouse, but I need to love him out on the field as well all the time. They just constantly, we do this to ourselves every single year, and I'm going to ask you guys not to do it next year. The Dallas Cowboys are going to win 12 games next year. They're gonna compete for the NFC East. They're going to compete for the 1 seed. They're probably going to have a new coach. They're at least going to have something different, and we're going to convince ourselves this Dallas team's different. This team looks a lot better. They've got the best scoring offense. They've got a great defense this year. Micah Parsons tearing it up. But just remember this game, because it'll happen again. We just can't keep doing this. Casey?
I mean, me and Everett are thinking the exact same thing here. Based off of what Dak Prescott said in that presser, well, Dak, maybe I am looking at you and Mike McCarthy to get out of here.
Right.
I mean, in Jerry Jones' perspective, right? Because you gotta look at it from his shoes. He does not have a lot of time left. Okay? He's unfortunately a very old owner, and he's got to win one before he unfortunately leaves this world. So I personally, if I was him, I'd be looking at the whole team. I would be saying, I don't think this guy is a top 10 quarterback or whatever. I don't think this guy can win me a Super Bowl. I got to go get someone else. There is a trade market for Dak Prescott. We know this. There's going to be a better option at coaching here this year. You might as well take your pick of the litter this year because you might not get another crop of coaches to come up any other time. Bill Belichick has done it time and time again, and I'm not saying that's who they should go for, but that's the guy he wants, probably, out of all the coaching options. That's the guy he should go get.
Could you imagine?
In Jerry Jones' perspective, I want him to do what he thinks that he can, whatever he needs to do to be able to try to win a Super Bowl.
Casey.
Because the guys he's got right now, they fail at the biggest moments. They're the biggest frauds in the NFL.
Have you seen
Casey,
Bill Belichick in a press conference?
I was going to say, have you and Alexandra ever put a couple together? Ever try to pair up a couple?
I'm just saying I'm not trying to I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying if that's who he wants, Jerry Jones should go do that because he doesn't have a whole lot of time left from Jerry Jones' perspective. Now, from just an analytical perspective, they should probably keep the guys that they got. Just keep rolling with it. I'm sure Dak Prescott will win another game. You don't want to just sacrifice your future for 1 year because that's what you would have to do because Dak Prescott cost a whole lot of money. Mike McCarthy, he's already built up this system that, Dak would have to learn another system. The whole offense would have to be reshaped again. So, I don't know. It's a tough spot for Jerry.
See, but Prescott is not under this big money deal. He is not under.
He gets, 40 or something like that?
He is not under the in that Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. He's not in that group. He signed a 4-year, $160 million contract.
That's 40, right?
In 2021. He's only got 1 year left on that deal. At the end of next year, he is a free agent. There is no way on God's earth, no chance the Cowboys are moving off Dak. He's 30 years old. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. And in 2 of the playoff games, he has just been awful. But, I mean, look,
I mean, really,
their defense yesterday.
Yeah, it was really.
And
the
again, I
defense.
just get so tired. I look back and I almost want to hang my head in shame that I get so wrapped up in this crap that we talk about over the course of a season. All I heard about in this studio was how great the Dallas defense is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Not from this
Oh
side.
my God, Micah Parsons, give him the MVP. I mean, the last 4 or 5 games of the year, people ran the ball right down their throat.
Yeah.
And I mean, Aaron Jones yesterday was, he was a machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Dallas
I just
Cowboys.
get tired of I get so tired of the hype. Go
It'll
prove
happen every
it.
year.
I know, but I'm not going to let it happen anymore. I mean, I used to joke
Right.
around about Sir Boy Wonder. I wasn't buying the hype with all these young Reds players, and I'm not going to buy it until they do it in the long haul. I'm not going to do it anymore. There was nonsense sitting here praising how great the Cowboys are, when in reality, they won the division only because Philadelphia stunk it up.
Lost 5 of their last 6 games. Tom, you are absolutely right, and that was the point I was going to make, is that next year, what's going to happen? Mike McCarthy's as good as gone. He's done in Dallas. They're going to have some new coach, and I don't know who it is, and we can speculate on the big name that gets thrown around there, but they're going to have some new coach, and they're going to look fantastic in September and October again. They're going to be 7-1. Top scoring offense, top scoring defense, all these things. And we're going to convince ourselves once again that the Dallas Cowboys are back. It's the 90s.
That's
It's Aikman.
right.
It's Emmitt Smith.
That's
all
right.
these guys. The backers, or the Cowboys are back. And it's going to be more of the same. I'm just saying, do not do that until your eyes see them win a meaningful game in the postseason. Do not fall into that trap. And Casey made an assertion, and he's like, go get Bill Belichick. Maybe that'll solve your problems. I don't think Lucifer himself
I don't-
could make a match worse than Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick.
Well, I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm saying if that's what Jerry Jones wants.
That relationship would dissolve faster than sugar and water. It would fall apart so quickly. Mr. Mumbles up there in the press conference against the owner that does a radio show 3 times a week and is constantly belittling the head coach. That if Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft couldn't get along, as there's rumors that they couldn't get along, how in the hell? Or is Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys fandom, and Bill Belichick ever going to get along?
Let's play a little game. You'll be the media, and I'll be Bill Belichick. Ask me a hard-hitting question about the Cowboys. I'm the Cowboys head coach, Bill Belichick.
Jerry Jones had, in his radio press conference, said some disparaging things about your decision to kick as opposed to going for it in the fourth quarter.
Well, you got to kick, and I'm going to kick, and I don't want to kick, and I hate the media, and we're on to Cincinnati. And that's how it would go. Every single press conference. Listen, him and by the way, not to mention, Bill Belichick's going to want control of the team. You think Jerry's giving that up? Tom's been saying that Jerry has like 6 different talk shows a week. Jerry's as much involved. He's the most involved owner in the history of sports. That's not happening. It would never.
I got to tell you, Steve brings up a great point here, and this is the best thing I've read in a long time. Steve from Chicago. He says, "Hey, look, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, they found a way to make it work. Not a bigger ego in the world than either one of those two guys."
It's true.
And
I mean, look, I loved what McCourty said last night on television, and this is all you need to know about what people think who played for the guy. McCourty said it once. He said it 5 times on NBC last night. He said, if any team has a chance to get Bill Belichick, he said, I can promise you what happened in this Dallas game today would never happen
That's
again.
fair.
Agreed.
That's fair.
He said you would be a fool not to go hire the greatest coach in the history of football if you got a chance to get it.
I agree. And like the team is already built. It's already ready to compete. I think that is true. I think the roster from top to bottom, maybe the quarterback you can have a bugaboo about, but that defense is ready. And Bill Belichick being a defensive mastermind throughout his entire career, I mean, he still boasted a pretty good defense.
Damn right he did.
Being 3-14 or
there's no
4
doubt about it. They played
13.
good defense most of this year.
I think that's despite what you guys want to talk about, the personalities don't fit, yada yada. Jerry Jones has already said that he would like to have him, and I know that was maybe many years ago.
He wants to have him. He likes shiny things.
But yeah, I mean, like all you need is 1 year for Jerry Jones. That's all he wants is 1 year. And he doesn't need a dynasty again. He wants to just win one more Super Bowl. And how do you do that? I think you get the best coach of all time.
You're right. You guys are right that if Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys on yesterday, this game probably doesn't end like it does. But, I mean, let's just do a quick fact check what happened last time Bill Belichick played a postseason game. They were down 27-3 at halftime. They lost 47-17. So let's not act like Bill is impervious to getting blown out in the postseason.
No, but I think what he's saying is when you have actually a fighting chance with a quarterback that can do anything.
That's fair.
I mean, I think that's what he's saying. That never happened when Brady was there.
And that's where I disagree with Casey. That's the only point I disagree with. I do think Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback. A very, very, very good quarterback. I don't know why he becomes Andy Dalton in the postseason, but during the regular season, despite who he plays, he has shown signs that he is an elite quarterback. He is a top 10 quarterback in my eyes, at least during the regular season. Again, he turns into Andy Dalton in the postseason. I don't know what happens. I don't know what goes through his mind. Is he a mental little person? I don't know. Maybe he might be. But I will say this. If Bill Belichick were to inherit this Cowboys team, I would be then fearful. I don't think it'll ever happen in a million years, Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones joining forces. But if they were to, I would be scared.
See, that's where I was alluding to. That if Bill Belichick gets the Dallas Cowboys job, we will do this same exact thing next year. We will do this same exact thing where we will see a Dallas Cowboys team beat up on teams beneath them, and we will convince ourselves this team's different. They got Bill Belichick. And that's what it was. Like when the Cowboys got Micah Parsons, you know, the guy who's leading the league in sacks, they're like, listen, this is a different Cowboys team. They got a good defense now. They've got a really good defense. Well, that's what we're going to do next year if they hire Bill Belichick. This team's different. They got Bill. But until my eyes see it, until my eyes see them go into the postseason and beat a confident team, I will refuse to believe that they're for real. Refuse to.
That's fair. And before we move off this game, I do want to give props because I feel like it's more been a Cowboys bashing party, and that's fine. I like to do that. But it is crazy how the Packers, time and time again, that's 3 straight times, that they've seemingly found a guy that competes at an elite level at quarterback. Jordan Love, who I've doubted, has now turned into again, I don't want to say there's shades of Brett Favre and Rodgers, but he's a damn good quarterback. This cat can play. Again, his stat line, by the way, which is very funny, this literally same exact stat line as C.J. Stroud. Right. 16 for 21, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think that's like only 2 less yards than Stroud threw. Kid was unbelievable. He was finding everybody downfield against what seemingly was an elite defense.
I put this tweet out last week about the comparisons between C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love, and a lot of people got on my case, being like, "Hey, you just don't like Ohio State and all this stuff," and that might be true. But like, if you look at what they've done this year, their stats are almost identical across the board. And you can say what you want about Jordan Love being in the system for 3 years. This was essentially his rookie year.
Oh, no doubt.
Essentially his rookie year. I think he had 80 snaps before coming into this year, and he took a team that was quarterbacked by one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the game last year, Aaron Rodgers. And he made their team look better this year in his rookie season. He made the Packers look better. You might recall last year, the Packers went into the final game of the year needing to win to get into the postseason. And what did Aaron Rodgers do? He didn't play very well. Didn't play very well at all. This year, same exact situation happened. They go into the final week of the year needing to win to get in the postseason. And what does Jordan Love do? He's like 28 for 32, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and looks fantastic. This was as big of a Jordan Love coming out party as it was as a dismantling of the Dallas Cowboys. It truly was. Jordan Love is the real deal. Now, it's a shame that they wasted his rookie contract because now they're going to have to pay him $45 million or something along those cases very soon. But Jordan Love is the real deal. That being said, they're probably going to get blown out this week by the 49ers.
I'm not going to do this and say that anybody's the real deal. I'm not going to say it about Stroud either. Let me see you do it for a while. I mean, everybody wants to throw Aaron Rodgers in front of the bus just because you don't like his politics. Aaron Rodgers has done it for a while. He's the real deal, not Jordan Love. He's done it Not even for half of a season. The first half of this season, he wasn't worth a hoot. So I am certainly not buying right now to say he's some guy I'm giving $50 million a year to because he went 9-8 during the regular season and had one good playoff game. I'm not doing it.
But let me ask you this, Tom.
Stroud either.
Let me ask you this, Tom.
You're going to have the exact same season.
Let me ask you this, Tom. Though you're going to have to pay somebody at quarterback.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I'm not going to do what I just said I'm not going to do and what Reed just did. He wants to make Jordan Love the second coming Aaron Rodgers.
That's not what I did. I said he's a good player. He's a very good player. They found their franchise quarterback.
I don't know if they found their franchise quarterback. I don't know that. I don't know. Neither do you. He had really his best games came in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, granted, when they needed him the most. And he looks really comfortable and really confident and very good. But I am not under any circumstances going to say in one of the worst divisions in football that a team goes 9-8.
That's fair.
And the guy has one good playoff game, and all of a sudden he's my $50 million a year quarterback. I mean, come on.
But let me ask you this.
So you'd rather him walk?
Yeah.
No, that's not what I said.
Well,
you don't have another
what I'm
option.
saying. You
tag
don't
him.
have to do it this year.
You can tag him.
He can get $12 million.
Well, $12 million is nothing.
That's what he'll get $12 million.
He's a bargain.
But he's gonna his agent, if his agent is worth a damn at all, he's gonna walk into the Green Bay ownership and say, listen, he's not playing next year for $12 million.
I can promise you, Jordan Love, they'll pay him whatever they pay him, and he's going to play because he's had 8 good weeks as a pro. Yeah. And all of a sudden, he is not going to hold out and not play when he's been waiting for 4 years to be a starter. He is going to be there in training camp. You can take it to the bank. They can pay him 15 cents, and he's going to be there.
I don't know.
When's the last quarterback you can name that held out?
Well, they normally get paid.
Lamar Jackson didn't hold out.
He didn't go to OTAs, right? He held out for.
No, but I'm talking about when he could have a year ago when he was on the last year of his deal. Hey, these guys ain't walking away from $12 million.
If Jordan Love's if his agent's worth a darn at all, he absolutely should hold out. Because listen, you can say that it's only been 8 weeks, but there isn't a quarterback that had a better 8-9 week stretch in this year than Jordan Love.
I just said that. I just finished saying that.
I know. I'm saying that I will be shocked. I will be shocked if Jordan Love plays for $12 million next year. If he because that's what he's due. That's what he's owed.
Can you name me one player?
Well, they always get paid. That's why, because you pay the quarterback.
Hang on a second. It's not true. Le'Veon Bell didn't get paid.
He wasn't the quarterback.
No, but he was the best running back in football.
You're right. Which is
how did that play out for him?
It played out fine for the
Steelers.
Steelers.
Name me the last
quarterbacks
player
and running backs are not equal.
Name me the last.
They're not equal.
And there's a reason why these quarterbacks. There has never been a player in any sport who I'm not going to say never because there's always an outlier. There is no, and we got into this last year talking about Casey. I can't remember who we were talking about, Burrow or somebody, or Lamar. Was he going to do it? These guys, their career is too short. You should be sued and never work again as an agent if you tell your player who's been sitting on the bench for 3 years and you become a starter for 1 season and you're going to make $12 to $14 million. You should never work as an agent again if you tell that player to sit out a year. Because when they come back the next year, they ain't getting $12 million. You can take it to the bank.
Quarterbacks are so much different than running backs, Tom. You're right that a quarterback has never held out because when they do or they hint at it, guess what happens? They get paid because they're that valuable.
Well, I don't think he's going to be top market. I don't think he's making 50.
No.
He's probably going to get that $40 million,
right.
Which is fair in
that's
my
what
opinion.
He deserves.
I think that's fair, and he probably won't even get that long of a deal either. It'll probably be a year, or not a year. It'll probably be like a 3-year deal
Correct.
for $40 million. I think that's more than fair for Jordan Love for what he's shown you so far. And I don't know, guys. Matt LaFleur, he really turned this team around.
He did.
He got Aaron Rodgers to the championship game a couple times. I'm not going to say it's a total wash against the 49ers because they've shown too many cracks this year. I I've been hyping the 49ers all year round, and now they're starting to show some cracks in the armor, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think. I really do.
The thing I'll say about Jordan Love's contract is just a few weeks ago, we did a buy or sell segment where we talked about Baker Mayfield. And we said, does Baker Mayfield deserve to be the quarterback in Tampa Bay for a couple years? And we talked about what he would deserve, and it's probably in the 30 to 35 range a year. And if you're telling me if I could have Jordan Love,
there's no contest,
or Baker Mayfield, I'm taking Jordan Love.
Right.
So if Baker Mayfield is deserving of 30, 35 million, Jordan Love should walk in there and say, I need $40 million. Once again, we're not talking a Joe Burrow max out, breaking records deal, 7 years, $270 million. We are talking, like Casey alluded to, a 3-year, $120 million deal.
Yeah.
To say, because Jordan Love, if Jordan Love goes out there next year and in week 2 tears his ACL, heaven forbid, guess who's not getting that big contract, getting that big payday anymore? He's coming into the final year of his contract. He should absolutely go out there and ask for.
Well, he got
an extension.
$13.5 million guaranteed this year, and with incentives that he hit, he made $22.5 million this year. So it's going to be a lot more than some $16 million a year deal.
I will say that they will rework that contract.
Yeah, well, they're both already talking about it. All right, and then we get to the nightcap. The storylines, as we mentioned in the monologue, they were too good to be true. If you try to sell it in Hollywood, it wouldn't work. Here you have Stafford, blood, sweat, and tears all the years, playing hurt, all-time leader in everything in Lions history. He requests a trade. They send him to the Rams. First year there, bang, wins a Super Bowl. Well, the guy who comes back the other way is Goff. First-round pick for the Rams, got him to a Super Bowl, didn't win it. They ship him off to Siberia, both literally and figuratively, in Detroit. And then here you have them playing against each other last night, right? Goff was there with McVay, Dan Campbell, and the first home game in over 32 years in the postseason for Detroit. It was by far the best game of the weekend. Mm-hmm. Not even close.
By far.
Right? By far the most competitive, the most engaging. And you know what? It was nice that both quarterbacks were able to live up to playing well, because they both played very well.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. When you really dive into how the game unfolded, it might appear, the reality might be different than what you remember of what the game, because it felt like, I mean, me and Elliot were talking about this. It felt like the Lions were kind of having their way, and they did for the first quarter.
Yep.
They certainly did, but we saw a stat that was very telling. The Detroit Lions, from the 8-minute mark of the second quarter to the end of the game, had one snap inside of the Rams 35. So they had nothing going for the final 3 quarters of that game. They still did enough in that first quarter to hold on. They did just enough to hold on. And then you think about Matthew Stafford, and both guys played very well. Like Jared Goff made the pass on 2nd and 9. I still can't believe they passed in the final game or final drive to get that first down. Matt Stafford is a gamer. He's maybe the most fun quarterback to watch in the NFL. Josh Allen's up there as well. But like Matt Stafford, with a chance to win the game, what do? They go down, they get first and goal, chance to take the lead. They're down 17-24, I guess, to tie it up, and they can't get a touchdown to tie it up. They get the ball back, go down. It's first and goal once again, this time to take the lead. Settle for a field goal. You're down 1. Final drive of the game, you get down to the 30-yard line. You're in field goal range. Can't get it done. So it was the best game by far of the weekend, but I feel like the reality of what happened is different than how we remember that game and both how the quarterbacks played.
Yeah, I'll say this. I've seen, again, I'm a big fan of the NFL. I love watching football. I love watching elite quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford is one of my favorites.
He's tremendous.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's tremendous.
What he had to endure when he was in Detroit. And again, I say this with love and respect. This was one of the hits from last night. Again, and he was taking these kind of hits every single game when he was with Detroit. He was getting beat up, stepped on, head knocked down. His finger was bleeding out of the slits in his hand. This guy is one of the toughest guys in the NFL. Maybe the tough. I might say the toughest guy in the NFL.
Yep.
With what he's had to endure in Detroit, what he does every single night after night, he was getting checked for concussions. Every single drive, he's coming over there having his blood sucked out of his throwing hand. It was insane. And again, last night he was what? He threw for 367 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't make a mistake. He made one mistake and he tripped on himself earlier on in the game.
Right.
But what I will take away from this game, Sean McVay, with a horrible misuse of timeouts in that second half, with 4 minutes left in this game on the opposing 44-yard line. The Los Angeles Rams were on the Detroit 44-yard line.
Right.
It was 4th and 14, but Matthew Stafford's thrown for 367. They converted a 3rd and 20 from their own 10 earlier in the game. Sean McVay elects to trust the defense, who has been shredded for a lot of that game. Chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. I think David Montgomery averaged 10 yards a carry. He elected with 1 timeout and a 2-minute warning with 4 minutes to play to take the ball out of his quarterback's hands and give it into the Detroit Lions. They deserve to lose because of the mistake Sean McVay made. Mm-hmm. That is pathetic. On your 44, you're going to end your season by having the other team take out the clock? It's preposterous. As good as Matthew Stafford played, as good as Puka Nacua, who, by the way, might, again, I know C.J. Stroud's going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but Puka Nacua, what he's done this season is nothing short of incredible. He set another record last night, most rookie yards in a postseason game. He had 180 yards. All that's happened, you take it away out of your hands, you give it to the Lions. You deserve to lose the game just on that decision alone. It was a great game. Again, I called the Lions frauds, and it seemed like they were going to be proven, or at least they were going to prove my theory correct towards the end of the game. Like Reed said, they didn't get a ton there. But I give respect to Dan Campbell. I sent this video to Casey last night on Twitter. When Dan Campbell came into Detroit, everybody laughed at him. Everybody mocked him. Even that decision in Dallas, and I saw Big Cat, shout out Big Cat, but he said it was a ball don't lie moment. How now, because Dallas loses in humiliating fashion to Green Bay, Detroit gets another home field advantage. But when Campbell went for the 2-point conversion on his own 10-yard line, instead of kicking an extra point to force overtime against the Cowboys, everybody laughed at him. He is now coming to Detroit, giving them their first postseason win in 30 years. This was his opening press conference, and everybody laughed at him, including me, when he started talking about biting people's kneecaps off. But I'll tell you what, this guy's coming to Detroit and has done what most coaches, I don't know how many coaches they've had in 30 years, but it's been over 5, that they've all failed. And this is what this guy had to do. This is what he had to say at his opening press conference.
This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't, but none of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit, so excuse my language. All right, here's what I do know, is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city, all right, and the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right, it's found a way to overcome adversity. All right, and so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right, and we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right, and on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap. And we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality.
And that's what it was. And they came out last night. They quite literally took Stafford's kneecap out, and they won the game. Shout out to Dan Campbell. I make fun of him. Everybody made fun of him. He's come into Detroit, one of the worst sports franchises ever, and he's won a playoff game. Congratulations.
Well, guys, this is where I sent out on Twitter last night, and I know from firsthand, because the last game he did in the booth was my longtime partner, Chris Spielman, former great Ohio State linebacker, former great Detroit Lion, multiple times in the Pro Bowl. Hell, this guy was on the cover of a Wheaties box when he was in high school. People don't remember that. He was the first team sport athlete, not Olympian, not the Mary Lou Rettons of the world. He was the first team sport amateur player ever to be put on the cover of a Wheaties box when he was in high school in Massillon, Ohio. Chris Spielman. I sat next to this guy every week for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it was. I've never been around a more intense human being in my life than this guy. I mean, he is football. So he was here doing a Cowboys-Bengals game 3 years ago. And I went out to dinner with him the night before the game. And he says to me, this is my last game in the booth. This is 3/4 of the way through the season. I said, what do you mean? What are you going to do? He said, I have been hired by the Detroit Lions, their owner, descendant of the Ford family, Sheila Ford Hamp, wants to bring me in there to be the special assistant to her, the owner, and to lead the search for a coach and a general manager. Nobody talked about Chris Spielman during that broadcast last night. And Tirico and Collinsworth made a bad mistake by not saying Chris Spielman's name, because he is Detroit Lions football. Dan Campbell is Chris Spielman. That's who he is. Spielman led the search of Campbell. He led the search of general manager Brad Holmes and has been there every step of the way. And I am really excited and so happy because there's not a better guy in the world than Spielman. And he is, even though he's a Buckeye, he is a Detroit Lion through and through. Always has been. And he has his fingerprints all over this whole thing. And every time I look at Campbell, I'm just like, yep, that's Spielman. That's him. Mm-hmm. What you see is what you get.
It's the moniker football guy, right?
Yep.
Football guy is what you imagine when you see Dan Campbell speak, and what you say about Chris Spielman certainly fits the bill. It's exactly the mentality that you like from a football team.
Yep.
It's why you love football.
Yep.
It's why you love football. And I know finesse has kind of taken over the game. Even in this city it has. But at the end of the day, when you think of the sport of football, you think of guys like Dan Campbell, who uses football as an analogy for war, or a boxing match and stuff like that. Like, hey, we are going to take everything. It's going to take everything to keep us on the mat, that kind of thing. And he's right. He's absolutely right. You talk about press conferences and how they're meaningless sometimes, but when you tell a city we're going to embody the city, this is a blue collar, put your nose to the grindstone every single day. We might be down, but we're going to be back up again in the city of Detroit. And then the Lions do it. You do it in front of a home crowd.
Yep.
You said you cannot write a better script than that. And it really is great. I mean, as Bengals fans, we know what it felt like 2 years ago when we beat the Raiders at home. We know what that felt like. Everyone laughing at the Cincinnati Bengals because you haven't won a playoff game in 30-plus years. And then you finally get it done. You do it in front of your home fans. Zach Taylor going around to bars, giving out game balls and stuff like that. It truly is cool for Detroit.
All right.
They're a team to root for.
You know what happened yesterday, by the way, with the Lions winning?
I know this. I know what you're going to say.
You know what that means?
The longest streak.
You don't want to be in the front of this line. It is the Cincinnati Reds that now have the longest streak without a postseason advancement. It was the Lions. And now it's the Bengalis who have not, the Reds rather, who have not done it since 1995.
Hamiltonian, Mark Lewis, grand slam.
The Dolphins, by the way, would be next. They haven't done it since 2000.
Well, they're going to break it this year, Tom. And if they don't, by God, I don't know what I'll have. I'll still be a fan, I guess, I suppose. But again, I've called the Detroit Lions one of the worst organizations in sports history. And again, I can't call the Reds that because of what they did with the Nasty Boys, with the Big Red Machine. But since a certain ownership group has taken over, it has been one of the world's biggest disasters. And that's not my opinion. That is objective, and that is cemented in stone with this Lions victory. Now they are the longest active streak without a playoff advancement. Good luck to them.
Here's the thing about what the Lions did. I think Tom is with me when I say things like this, but we've kind of adapted a rule of thumb to where we're not going to believe in something till we see it with our own eyes, right? We said that about the Dallas Cowboys. Until I see the Dallas Cowboys win a meaningful game, I'm going to continue to think that they're frauds. We said that with the Miami Dolphins. Until the Miami Dolphins win a meaningful game, until the Miami Dolphins play well in the cold, I'm going to continue to think that they're frauds. And we said that about the Detroit Lions. We said until my eyes see them win a postseason game, I will continue to think that they're the Detroit Lions. Once you do that, cards are off, right? Yep. Now you're your own team. Now you are a new team, and that's what the Detroit Lions can do. Whoever they play in the next round, they're at home.
Yep.
And you're either going to get a Bucs team that you're much better than, or an Eagles team that is slumping worse than any team I've seen in the NFL postseason, maybe ever, right? So you're going to get one of those two teams. They'll be favored either way. So they have a chance to go to the NFC Championship game.
No doubt.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Let's talk about, quickly, a couple of other games today. You and I thought this was going to be a game, Buffalo and the Steelers.
Yeah.
I still believe that. You still believe in it?
I still believe in it. I mean,
more than ever because of the snow?
Yeah. Did you see how bad the weather is still down there? And it's going to be miserable. It's going to be very cold down there, or up there, I'm sorry. I think the spread is too much. It's sitting at like 9.5, I think, right now.
That's a huge number.
A huge number.
Huge.
I think Steelers are going to keep it close. I don't know if they'll win, but they're going to keep it close.
Have you guys changed your mind on it at all?
Well, so it's funny. They moved the over-under, Tom. It was 33 when the blizzard was coming in, whenever it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be yesterday. But it is now 38.5. I think 38 is far too many points. I don't think there will be 25 points scored in that game. So if I have that theory, I certainly can't take the Bills to cover 10 points. I'm going to take probably the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 10.
I'm going to stay. I'm 4-0 on betting spreads this weekend. Been on the right side of every single game. I can't get a read on this one at all. I think that there's not a chance in hell. I don't think there's a chance in hell that the Steelers win this game. I'll say that. I cannot see Mason Rudolph going up to Buffalo and beating Josh Allen, who is the Bills and the Rams are playing the best football. We're playing the best football coming into the postseason. The Bills probably are playing the best football at this very moment. I can't see that at all. 10 points, though, is 10 points in a blizzard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to stay far away from this game.
I think it's going to be great. By the way, 4:30 kickoff, which is 4:30 in, what is
it?
It
is a holiday.
4 hours.
It's going to be brutal.
It's a holiday, but it's wild, man.
It is going to be brutal.
I love it
I
so
mean,
much.
a few minutes ago, I saw on X. A few minutes ago, they didn't have enough people that came out for the $20 an hour thing, and now they're telling the people that are there, just get the snow off the walkways. They're not even going to get them off the seats now.
Oh yeah, nobody's going to be sitting down.
You're in charge of your own seat when you get there. That's why they got when you go to the Reds game, and the usher comes by and wipes off your seat. Some poor guy's going to just, instead of getting a little cloth that he wipes the seat, they just give him a shovel.
That's right.
Just like
snow blower.
Where are you sitting? 32A? All right.
Oh, I mean, it looks brutal.
Dumping it.
They're not even cleaning off the seats.
What do you even do?
That
with
just
all
came
the
out a
snow?
minute ago.
What are they doing with this?
So did you see the chutes they created?
No.
So they lined up these chutes going from the top of the first deck all the way down to the field level. And they had video last night of some dude took off his shirt.
Yeah,
you saw it.
Yeah,
and he goes sliding down the slide, pushing the snow with his feet as he's going down. Once it gets down there, I don't know what the hell they do with it.
I think it goes to a
drainage of some kind.
Well, drainage, or I think they pile it up and they take it out of the stadium with like a cart or
tractor
something.
or something.
Yeah. But
I'm going to say it to Casey.
I think they should just tell all their fans to get out there, bust out their summer beach gear, get those plastic little tiny sand shovels, and just bring it with you so you can get your own seats. Just clear them out. Just.
I sent you the video of that fan riding down that thing. That's awesome.
The Buffalo, New York's Surf Shack's gonna be sold out of little sand shovels.
All right, so
how many people show up to that game? In all seriousness,
they'll be sold out.
It'll be sold out.
Be packed.
It'll
That's
be sold
crazy,
out.
man.
Isn't that what's great about football?
That is.
We in all seriousness, America. Out of all the things I love about America, I love how much we love football.
Yep.
We love it.
This was Tom's shoot.
Yeah, this is it right here. Look at this.
So they just put like a tarp out there, and that's how they're removing the snow.
Well, I think they're just putting all the snow from top.
Look
They're
at that
pushing
thing.
it down on the field, which is.
He's shirtless.
Tom, how much money for you to do that? $20 an hour?
And it's still snowing.
Shirtless in negative 25
Look
degree
at
weather?
that. Look at that stadium.
In all seriousness, guys, we joke about $20 an hour, but I will
Big
do it
fella.
for the story. I will tell my kids. I will tell people similar to how I joke about how everyone in Cincinnati has a relative that's lying about going to the Freezer Bowl. I will tell in Buffalo, everyone will have a family member that said, "Yeah, I got paid $20 an hour to go shovel the snow. It was great, fantastic time. So cold, but man, so many good memories."
They better win.
Oh, man. Can you imagine, Tom, can you imagine spending your Sunday and Monday holiday off
Oh, my God.
going to Highmark Stadium in support of your Bills, shirtless, having just a good old grand time, then noted elite quarterback Mason Rudolph comes up and shreds your defense. Golly.
By the way, for curiosity's sake, I wanted to look at the rush attempts as a bet, and it is not high enough. Jalen Warren with 8.5. Najee Harris with 16.5. James Cook with 15.5. Are we kidding? They're going to be running both those guys are going to run like 20-plus times, right?
The last time any two teams played in a game like this, as we talked about it last week, was New England when they beat Buffalo. And they didn't complete but one pass in the game. Or maybe not a single pass. I don't remember which it was. All right, the other game, you got – who did you pick, Tampa or Philly?
I think for this game I picked Tampa to win, I think. I was with Reed on – I think the Eagles, they're just super cold right now.
Me and Casey are on the Bucks. You guys are on the Eagles.
Okay. And both quarterbacks literally are hurting bad. Baker Mayfield's got injured ribs, which he's had for 2 weeks now. He also has a bad ankle. Jalen Hurts, as of Friday, had not thrown a single ball after injuring the middle finger on his passing hand in the game last week when he came back in and said later he wished he wouldn't have come back in. A.J. Brown is not going to play for the Eagles. They think he might be available if they win next week. So that's that. You know, there are two things, and I tweeted this yesterday. Did anybody see the video of the Chicago Bulls fans and Jerry Krause's widow?
I did.
This was one of the saddest things, and I just don't know where we are anymore as a society. And somebody jumped on me yesterday, "Oh, Tom, you're lecturing somebody." I'm not lecturing anybody about anything. I'm just wondering, who is the person? I mean, who are they? Who is the person that goes to a celebratory event? This was an event to recognize one of the greatest teams in the history of professional sports, the Chicago Bulls, of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and all these guys. The general manager who put together those teams is a guy named Jerry Krause. Now, Krause was this big, heavy, short, sort of rugged sort of guy. Mm-hmm. I had a chance to broadcast a few of the Bulls games back in those days when Wayne Larrabee, who I worked with at WGN, was also the voice of the Chicago Bears. So there was a situation around Thanksgiving one year where the Bears were playing, Wayne had to do the Bears game, and they asked me to come over and do 3 Bulls games on television. Jerry Krause was also a huge baseball guy. Huge baseball guy. Was a scout, whole 9 yards. And in fairness, in unfairness, I should say, Michael Jordan, who had complete content control over that 30 for 30 thing about the Bulls that was such a huge hit, He did nothing to help Jerry Krause in this thing. Gave him a nickname behind his back, would say things about him. And a lot of it had to do just simply with the way the guy looked. And they portrayed it like Krause was a guy who broke up those teams. They won 6 championships. They had 2 runs of 3 in a row. So the other night in Chicago, they have this celebration of this team. Jerry Krause is dead. He died just a couple of years ago. So for this celebration, does Jordan show up? No. No. Video message. Scottie Pippen show up? No. Rodman? No. Well, one person who did show up was Jerry Krause's widow. They've been married 50-something years. So when they introduce his widow as part of the celebration, the boos start raining down from the stands in Chicago Stadium. Stacey King, who played on some of those Bulls teams, who's now a radio commentator, he was beside himself. Steve Kerr. They set this thing up in part with Golden State coming back there to Chicago because Kerr was such an integral part of those Bulls teams as a player. He said it was the worst thing he's ever seen in sports. The worst thing he's ever seen. Who in their right mind boos a widow of a dead man on a night when you're supposed to be celebrating what he had a huge hand in putting together and the success of that franchise? Who does that? I'm not kidding. Who does that? Now, some people say, Tom, who does that? Say what you said on a broadcast. I hear you. But who boos a woman, a widow? Who is sitting in their, what kind of a human being is sitting in their chair and thinks it's a great idea to boo a 70-something, 80-something-year-old woman who's already lost her husband to death? Who does that? And we just let it roll right off. We just let it go like anything else in this cycle of news, 24/7. We just let it go. I just, when I watched that, my heart completely broke. And any human being who has half of a heart, if you watch that clip with her breaking down, starting to cry, with people needing to console this woman who is honored and privileged to be there, just included that they haven't forgotten about her or her husband. I was so grossly disappointed. And did you see the shot yesterday when the Rams took the field?
I don't think these two things equate. You're absolutely right. It is an absolute travesty that happened in Chicago. In all seriousness, that is terrible. That's the worst. That's part of the worst parts of being of fanatics, being sports fanatics. The Matt Stafford thing, I think, is all in like, I think most Lions fans love Matt Stafford. It's just like the booing of Matt Stafford. Seriously, if you ask Lions fans, I'm sure they love Matt Stafford. But it's just in the heat of battle, the first playoff game, and they're the enemy. I don't think these two things are equal, I guess is what I'm saying, Tom. One is objectively terrible. Absolutely terrible, a travesty. The other one, I think it's all in good fun of being a fan.
I think I'm trying to give an example. If Joey Votto plays for a team next year, and he comes in the Great American Ballpark, there will be no boos. There will be a standing ovation.
I think
Tom.
I'd boo Joe Burrow if he goes somewhere else and he comes home to Paycor Stadium. I think I'd boo him as he walked down on the field. I would not boo Joey Votto. Do you think people would boo Joey Votto?
I don't think people will boo Joey Votto.
No, of course they won't.
So
but there were people last night when Stafford went into the blue tent last night. You could hear people booing him as he was hurt going into the tent. And I'm no perfect person, Lord knows. But I just don't get it. I don't get what would lead you to all of a sudden. Maybe it's alcohol. I don't know. We've all done stupid stuff for drinking alcohol. I have no idea. And people keep saying Matthew Stafford asked to be traded. So what? So what? He gave you everything he had. There are body parts of Matthew Stafford littered all over Ford Field.
Right.
The guy played hurt every year, every game for teams that had 2, 3, 5, 6 wins.
I mean, the trade is the only reason why they're even there where they're at right now. If they did not trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, they would have not been in the position that they're in right this second. They wouldn't have Laporta. They wouldn't have Pahhni Sewell. They wouldn't have all these guys because it just took them on a different trajectory.
Listen, I think it's just I really would like, because I don't know enough Lions fans. My college roommate was at the game last night. He's a diehard Lions fan. I don't think a whole lot of Lions fans hate Matt Stafford.
No, I don't either.
I think they booed in the spirit of having a home playoff game, and they're just going to boo the opposing quarterback. And there's some if you ask Lions fans, yes, we love Matt Stafford. We're playing him for our first home playoff game in 30 years. Yeah, we're going to boo him. I think it's just that. I think if it's just reading into it a little too much. I think it's just all in the spirit of a good game.
But I don't think
what happened in Chicago is terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's a shame. The Chicago sports fans just suck, and he's sitting right there. And sorry, I'm very sorry about that. But by the way, Matthew Stafford, and again, I agree. You boo the opposing player, I get it. But he did spend 12 years there. This isn't like you spent 4 years, and then the first chance he got, he's up and gone. This isn't Eli Manning not wanting to play for the Chargers. This is a guy who spent 12 years of his life in Detroit. I think he earned some respect.
Well, I mean, and the other thing was, I was trying to think of, some people were bringing it up after I sent out the thing on X last night. Now, Carson Palmer, I would totally get if Bengals fans, because
those
not only did Carson Palmer leave,
he talks bad about it
every chance he gets, he goes out of his way to bury the Bengals.
Yep.
No matter what he does, and for the life of me, I don't get it. I've never liked the guy anyway, and I've been in a bunch of meetings with him. Something about him.
Thinks highly of himself.
I mean, you know what? He was a hell of a player.
Right.
I mean, I'll give him all that. But, I mean, all he does is, the Bengals can do something great, and he will find a way to turn it into they are the worst thing of all time. And I'm sure he went through some nonsense here. And there's no doubt he went through some nonsense here about not trying to win and all those kind. But you've never heard Stafford say a single negative, not one. Right. Not even something as flippant as like, man, fresh start. Maybe a chance to win some more games here than we did nothing even on the borderline like that. Nothing. Anyway, the Lions, good for them last night, and they win the game, and we move on.
I will say, Steve from Chicago kept putting in the chat and said that the boos, once again, this does not, like what happened in Chicago, is terrible. Absolutely terrible. The worst of fanatics. They said that a lot of the vitriol is pointed towards the owner of the Bulls and also the White Sox, Reisdorf, right? Jerry Reisdorf. I don't know if there's a worst owner in sport. He's certainly up there, Tom. I know he's won some championships, Jerry Reisdorf, but I will never forget seeing him. 2005, Chicago White Sox win their first championship in almost 100 years. And they walk on over to the owner of the Chicago White Sox, and they say, hey, what do you think about you winning the World Series? You know what the first words out of his mouth were? Buy Chicago Bulls season tickets. What? What is that? I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine if the Reds win the World Series, they go over to the Castellinis, and they're like, congratulations on winning the World Series. What do you got to say? And he's like, hey, make sure to pre-order your season tickets for next year. Make sure to go buy some more jerseys. What?
Okay, this is where be careful of the words you use. Is Jerry Reinsdorf really the worst owner? His basketball team won 6 championships, and his baseball team won a World Series. Okay, so, I mean, are you going to put him in the same category as Daniel Snyder?
No, but Daniel Snyder's no longer an owner. But.
Okay, but you know what I'm getting at here.
Correct.
Okay, so, I mean, look, Reinsdorf has people say they want for the baseball team, he has tried many ways to try and win. He spent a lot of money on his teams through the years. And then when they don't, he cleans house, tries a new group. If there's anything wrong with Jerry Reinsdorf, it's he's too loyal to people. He's kept too many people on the baseball side around for too long. But I'll tell you what, I mean, he's won at least one. What will we do in our city for the owner who wins one?
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, last thing want to hit real quick before we get going. UC basketball. I saw your
he did fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say that.
Chatterbox Bearcats the other night. And you were talking about how you feel good about the way they're competing.
Yeah, I think I've been wanting something like this for a long time, where when you play in the American, it's really hard to get a good grasp of what your team is because, and I say this with love and I say this with respect, you're playing very bad teams night in and night out. If you play a Houston once every month or once every several months, that's your big game. And even Houston, they're the number 2 team in the country. They're great, but even Houston, they're not Kansas. No matter what Kansas is ranked, Kansas is always going to be Kansas, right? Texas is always going to be Texas. When you play in the Big 12, you're playing one of these perennial. I don't want to say they're all blue bloods, but there's certainly a couple of them in the Big 12, and I think that's awesome. And to have UC compete, to be within reach, if you were to tell me with 11 seconds left in the ball below the basket, I would have told you with down 1 point, UC has a very damn good chance to win this game. They had it against Texas. A missed free throw at the end cost them.
Yep.
But this is 3 straight games to start, which is what I claim to be the hardest schedule in UC history, the hardest opening to a conference schedule in UC history with these first 7 games.
Oh, by far.
And they have not only beaten BYU, the 12th-ranked team in the country, on the road, they have lost by 1 to Texas. I'm not going to make the moral victory joke, but you lost by 1 to Texas, who is ranked at home. You lose to Baylor, who is number 14, who is ranked on the road. This is a good UC team. They're missing one guy who can consistently score. On Saturday, it was Skillings, who has been a no-show for 4 games now, 5 games. Came out of nowhere, dropped 27 or 25, whatever it was. Lukosius, who's been the team's best player for the past several games, was 1 for 10 shooting, including missing the game-winning shot. So this is a team, if you find your identity, you're going to make the tournament. I still believe that. If you beat TCU on Tuesday, tomorrow night, you're right back on track. You're right back on track. We didn't have Aziz, which I didn't know was going to happen.
Yep.
You got into foul trouble early with Victor Locken in a bullshit technical. So I'm very pleased with the way UC's playing. Very pleased. I couldn't have asked for a better start to the Big 12 than this UC basketball team. I don't think this team...
Another win would have been nice, but...
I don't think this team can compete for a national championship this year. I don't think anybody's going to say that they can. But I'll say this, they're close. A lot like the Reds, they are damn close, and you can feel it. So I'm gonna say positive vibes over here. Reed can keep all of his Chicago hate over there. They killed Krause. They killed Steve Bartman. All the Chicago fans over here, they'll kill everybody. But listen, here in Cincinnati, we cheer on our guys. And I'm going to cheer on this Cats team all the way home. Tuesday, tomorrow night, we'll see everybody there in the blistering cold against TCU.
Can I ask a question that I'm
Sure.
I'm being serious because
I don't think you will, but go ahead.
No, the Bearcats played well obviously against Texas at home and lost. Go to Baylor and lose and have a chance to win. At what point, and I'm being serious, at what point does almost winning not count anymore? Because I feel like you're running out of moral victories. Like, yes, you are. The Bearcats are competing. The Bearcats are competing. But if they keep doing this, what's it matter? If they keep losing in the final seconds, what does it matter?
The difference is we weren't supposed to win any of these games. Not one. So
you were 5-point favorites against Texas.
You were 5-point fine.
So you were very, very much supposed to win that game.
Okay. All right. You were supposed to win one game. And I agree. Almost victories right? You're supposed to almost win. Whatever. That's not going to rattle me. My point is, I think if UC can compete at this level, eventually it's going to go our way. Right now it's not going our way. Eventually it's going to go our way when you keep it close like this down to the last possession. So if they lose like this the whole way through, then yeah, it's a problem. If they don't ever win a game, sure. But they're 1-2 in the conference against 3 ranked teams.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
2 on the road.
If they go through this week, who do they play this weekend? They play
TCU and then they play Oklahoma.
Okay, so if once again
top 10 team,
they compete,
and a top 25 team.
Right? They're 2 very good teams. But if they go down, have a chance to win, they don't win, are we still hanging our hat on at least we're competing?
Yeah, I have
1-4 in the conference.
I have no issue with that because I think everybody expected UC to lose every single one of these after the abysmal non-conference schedule that they had. When you're losing first halves to Stetson, it's hard to get up against number 12 on the road, but you beat them. You're competing in every single game. You beat TCU. If we get blown out to TCU, then we'll start changing tides. But as of right now, this is a damn good UC team, and they can make a run in the tournament.
All right, we got both UC. We'll go ahead real quick.
I was just going to say, at this moment, the games aren't as big. And, from a whole – you're looking at the whole season for UC. Right. Losing these games won't matter as much as long as they win them in the back end, which that's what really matters is if they can get a good enough record to get in there, or if they make a lot of noise in the Big 12 tournament.
That's right.
Right,
or a combination of the two.
Right. That's all it really matters is how you play at the end.
Well, we will be able to get into a lot more UC and Xavier for that matter tomorrow. They both play tomorrow night. We mentioned Butler in town to play X, TCU in town to play UC. We'll talk tomorrow about both the playoff games today and then start to look ahead at next weekend in the divisional round matchups. Case?
Yep.
Have a good day, big boy.
Thank you, Tom.
Zeba?
Adios.
Reed?
Free box lunch coming up, Tom.
Free box lunch. Here we go.